happy vibes, my friends. Welcome back to my podcast, Vibes by Alicia, where I believe in spreading killer vibes that light you up and give you that kick in the ass to craft the life you wish to live. This sacred space is dedicated to the lovers of all things business, travel, and lifestyle. Hey, it's about time you get the scoop on the latest vibes, so let's get to it. Yay! Today I have the pleasure of continuing our marketing conversation with Shavonnah Roberts Schreiber of SNR Creative, a boutique marketing agency where they turn your ideas into reality in the most creative way possible. Welcome, Shavonnah.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
You know, I'm so grateful to have you because our business ladies always tune in for the business nuggets and the business wisdom and a little bit of, advice. So many of them are running their businesses, they're entrepreneurs, and they don't know, maybe what they should try or what could work for them. Mm-hmm. Everyone's trying to get exposure for their business and trying to get, their projects or even their podcast off the ground. So, let me start a little bit with your background in marketing. So you're an experienced marketer and instructor for the startup and small business owners of Houston. You're the co-host of the podcast, Big Ideas, Small Business. You're also the managing director at SNR Creative, a boutique marketing and business development firm that uses years of experience, human insights, and analytics to create compelling marketing campaigns that drive successful business results. Yes. And I know that for a fact. So one of the things that includes in your expertise is market research, message creation, marketing communications, and go-to-market strategy and execution. So let me start with the beginning of your work journey. At what point in your life did you determine that you wanted a career in marketing?
So you know what's interesting? Marketing sort of chose me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I started my career in journalism. So I was a radio co-host in Tucson, Arizona. And I moved back to Houston because I realized, okay, radio was a little bit too entertainment-like for me. I mean, I was thinking it was going to be this hard journalism, and it just wasn't. So I moved back to Houston. I get into business development, and I'm in business development, and I'm working for an energy company. And I stayed in that role maybe for 3 years.
Okay.
And just around that time, I was deciding I was going to go to graduate school. And I remember I started graduate school at University of St. Thomas, which I know is your alma mater also, to get my MBA. And I had one semester in, and I was going to finish my graduate school program at that company. And I got a call. And I got this call from a friend, from a colleague whose sister was a recruiter.
Okay.
So her sister's recruiting for this communications consultancy. And she said, well, I only know people in technology. Do you know anyone who has a communication or journalism or writing background? And this person who was my colleague says, oh, I know somebody. And it was me. Uh-huh. So she threw a Hail Mary. So I love sports. So I may use some sports analogy. So she says, hey, would you be interested in this? Now, remember, I'm at this company. I've just started this 2-year MBA program, and I plan to stay there. So I said, oh, you know what? It doesn't hurt to interview. I'll interview. So I interview, then I get invited back for the next interview, then the next interview, then I get an offer.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So I go to that I ended up moving over to that comms agency. And after I was there, maybe a little over a year, they asked if I would be interested in business development. So this is sort of the shift from the comms and working as a practitioner over to the sales business development side. So I was responsible for working with our existing clients, upselling, making sure that the products and services that we were providing were going well. The teams that were in place were the right teams. So I said, okay, yeah, I'll check it out. So I'm there. I checked it out. I'm doing a good job. I finished graduate school and I started looking, let's just see. I found another business development opportunity at a technology company. Again, it was one of those, well, I'll interview and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I interview again all day, get an offer. Actually, while I was on the plane leaving town, I get an offer. So I thought about it. I called the other company, tendered a resignation, and then I'm in this business development world. Fast forward, that company gets acquired a few years later. And one of the people working on the acquisition team, they came to me and they said, okay, so we hear that you're a rock star and we've reviewed your profile. We've talked to folks that you've worked with, and at the new company you're going to go to, you could either go into the sales team or the marketing team. Because at the time I reported to a salesperson, but I was business development and I kind of sat in between sales and marketing. And I said, well, I guess I'll try marketing.
Wow.
I'll just,
like that.
Yeah, I'll try it, right? Because I'm thinking I have a comms background. I mean, it's messy. I'm a good writer. I'll try marketing. So, that was, that's been over a decade now, long time ago. And here we are. So I got to that new company. I got recruited out of that business line to another one and ended up leading this global team. And there it is.
Did you have a sense like your heart was in the right place once you found marketing? Like, this is it. This is me. This is for me.
I had the sense that I would be excellent at it because I had a sales mind. And what I realized really quickly is that marketing wasn't always seen as effective by the sales team because a lot of times the marketing strategies were beautiful, pie in the sky, not tethered to what the sales team actually was dealing with out in the field. And I had that perspective. So I knew that made me unique. And so I leaned into that sort of competitive advantage that I realized I had.
You brought.
And so I pushed my marketing team, the people who reported to me, to really think through whatever you're creating, how is this going to be used in the market by a salesperson, and make a relationship with the sales team, build a relationship, cultivate the relationship. So I think it was in that moment when I really started to see the benefits of thinking that way and how it was producing those results for our sales team, which were great for our business line, which was great for the company, that I was like, okay, I'm in the right place.
You're in the right place. Do you feel like that is your ethos in a way in business, that you always try, because this is something I learned from you always try to put yourself in the salesperson's point of view?
Yeah, I think so. Well, because at the end of the day, you're selling something, right? The product, the service, your talent, your skills, whatever it is.
Yes.
We all are. And when I say selling, really the way I think about selling is figuring out if you have a need. We all have needs and things that we want. If you have a need or a desire, am I the person to fill it? Do I have that tool, that product, that service that you're looking for? Because then it becomes less about selling and more about matchmaking.
Right.
So then it becomes, okay, you have this gap you're trying to fill. I have these skills.
Yeah.
And what do you think? So then if I can present it to you in a way that really in many cases, obviously you're going to highlight the benefits, but remain as neutral and objective as possible, then you get to make the decision. You get to decide, I want to give this a shot. This is something I think I want to try. And so then it doesn't feel like a sale or you were sold to.
So it's more of like a presentation. It's more of like
it's like I say, marketing is really highlighting the things that make this product, this service, this solution great. And the people who are looking for that, that will resonate with them, and then you will connect.
And then there's a match.
There you go.
Yeah, that's why you said it's like matchmaking.
Exactly.
I love that. So you did mention at one point, when we had the live recording last time. And so I just want to return to that because there was a few things that we did mention at that time. And I just want to like really hone in a little bit on those things because they were really important. You talked about creation and like, and referring to like small business owners and entrepreneurs, and incorporating podcasting into their marketing strategies, or maybe should they start a podcast? I mean, I want to know your perspective on that. Is it something that a small business owner should definitely look into? Is it something that benefits them, or should they have their own podcast themselves as a way for them to promote their own services or products?
It depends. And I think that if and the reason it depends is because to produce a podcast correctly, there's a lot more than just talking to people, right? I mean, as you know, there's a ton of production that goes on behind it, research, I mean, so there are a lot of things that I think people don't necessarily know. So the reason I say it depends is because it depends on how much time a person has and if they really do desire to be on air, however often their podcast runs, and find guests or not. Because if they don't, that's okay, because I feel like there are plenty of podcasts for all sorts of interests that they can tap into without having to create their own. Like you could create your own, or like me, you could find someone who doesn't have a co-host anymore. And after being a guest on the show for, I think 4 times, I'm like, well, do you want to co-host? And Brian's like, sure. I'm like, okay. And that's how it went.
Wow.
So I didn't create Big Ideas Small Business.
And you have good chemistry, by the way.
Exactly.
Which is not something that's common as well. Like, that's another thing. Some people don't have very good chemistry and they want to force something to happen. And it does happen for y'all, you know?
Yeah. And but that's how it all came about.
Okay.
He is an instructor at the University of Houston Small Business Development Center, as am I. He stayed for one of my sessions once, like years ago. And that's how we originally met.
Awesome.
And so we started to talk. I was on his podcast. And I think, like I said, I was on maybe 3 or 4 times. And as I met with him to say, okay, what's your plan? What are you thinking about for the next year? He had lost his co-host. And so I just said, hey, well, what do you think? And he's like, okay. And so we figured we would try it and we would see. We tried and we would see what happened. Yeah. And now I think for the show, I think this is season 4 or year 4. But for me, we're going into our second one, or we're in our second one. So yeah.
Yeah. So if the business owner, for example, isn't ready, I guess, to have their own, what is a good way for them to guest? And when they guest into a podcast, to be, I guess, the most successful at promoting themselves or their business or their products?
Well, I think, again, going back to matchmaking, I feel like dating rules apply to many things.
Yeah, dating applies to a lot of things.
It does, actually. So I think the first thing is find that podcast that already exists, that they like, that they feel, this is Vibes by Alicia, that they feel that they vibe with, right? Yeah. So, okay, if I'm going to guest into a podcast, then who's the host? Do I feel like I would have good chemistry with the host? That's number one. Is this an audience? Is this a target audience? Do they have an audience that I want to reach and connect with? And if so, what then can I offer that audience? So instead of thinking about what the audience can offer me, what can I offer the audience? Those are the things I would think about. And if you can answer those questions and, to the affirmative of, okay, yep, we vibe. Yep, I have something to offer. Then I say, reach out and make that pitch. And again, that's
pitch yourself, basically.
It's a matchmake.
Yeah.
I listen to your podcast. I like your show. You have you're funny, whatever the connection point is, make that pitch, make that connection. And then say, and I would like to be a guest, and this is what I believe I could bring to your audience. Because I know at least we are, as podcast hosts, we're always looking for guests that can bring some value to our audience. So I think making sure that is very obvious. This is what I can bring to your audience. I think that's the way a business owner can make a good match with the podcast. Right. And then obviously bring that value. And in doing so, they'll naturally promote their business.
Exactly. Which is something that Stephanie mentioned. And I think also for the podcaster to make sure that they don't just take any guest, that they take a guest that also, I guess, blends in with their vision, with their mission, with whatever they're presenting, and it's not something that's completely off, but that also, kind of has a little bit of that, that correlates with whatever's going on for that podcaster in their life as well,
That's right. That's right. And I think people like to learn. I mean, I feel like podcasts are a great source of learning. So if you only have 10 minutes, then you start it for those 10 minutes and maybe you come back to it. I feel like the thing that makes podcasts such a nugget for a marketing strategy is the shareability and the fact that you can take them in bite sizes.
I love that. Shareability and bite sizes. So you also mentioned that because you do also offer these as a strategy for some of your clients. How do you present it to your clients, and how do you think that, they can take it? You mentioned this at the event, to get more mileage for their dollars.
Yeah. So the reason I think podcasts end up being a great channel is because, as I mentioned, one, you can find a podcast on just about any interest that you have. And so if you're a business owner, your audience is somewhere listening to someone's podcast. That is for sure.
For true, yeah.
And if you can figure out which one that is and tap into it and do the things I just mentioned, usually to be on a podcast, to guest or to sponsor is a lot more affordable than radio or television or traditional print. Just period. So the reason you get more mileage is because, one, the price point is lower to buy the media, to buy the spot. Then number two, because of the shareability, when I pass by a billboard, I pass by it and I see it and that's it.
And that's it. It's done. It's over. You don't see it anymore.
If I listen on the radio, if I'm listening at 7:17 a.m. and I hear that ad, it's over. It's done. I can't share it.
Yeah.
Now I can go searching on the radio's website and try to find the segment.
Yeah,
but
it's too difficult and you don't have the time for that.
But if I listen to a podcast, even if I only say it's 50 minutes and there's a 10-minute portion that I think is great, I've done this where I'll share the entire podcast.
Yes.
So now I'm not just sharing that episode, I'm sharing the entire series with whomever I'm sharing it with that they are curious to go and explore. And I say, hey, listen to starting at minute 15. Now, they may listen to the whole thing. They may listen to just that part that I suggested. But either way, now they can just very easily hit share and share it with someone else.
Yes.
And that original person is exposed to this entire podcast series. So they go looking through the library, they find some other show that they want to listen to, another episode.
Yes.
And you don't get that with any other marketing medium. That's
no,
the
you
thing.
don't. You're right. And I have a group with my sisters where, the minute we hear a podcast that we like, we just copy the link and send it to each other.
Yes.
And that's how we've been keeping up, hey, ladies, I'm going to go out of town. I want to binge on something. Do you have a recommendation? You're absolutely correct, because it is so easy for us to just share it, plug in the link and say, hey, guys, this is really good. You're going to love it. And so that's one of the things that I think, you really are correct. And like, you really get a lot of good mileage out of a podcast episode. And so advertising in a podcast episode really makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things I've noticed, and I listen to a wide variety of podcasts and all kinds of things, but one of the things I noticed is they don't have that many advertisers. So think about a television show. So think about, say you watch a basketball game, and they're going to have commercials. They're going to run, for about maybe 2 to 3 minutes, depending. And you're going to see 6 commercials, 7 commercials, depending, maybe a few less, just, maybe 5 to 7.
Yeah.
And then they go away. Sometimes you see the same commercials. You notice, okay, they just showed that commercial. See the same commercial. But the point is, you see these commercials. They're a little blurb, and then they're gone. And who can you share it with? Even if it was great, even if it was like the most fantastic commercial of all time.
No, you can't copy a link from that commercial.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
and reshare it.
It's done.
Over.
It's over and it's done. And you think about it, even the Super Bowl, don't you think it's interesting that I just wait to the next day to go look at all the marketers.
I do too.
To go see all the ads.
Oh, yeah, I'll go to Twitter and then I'll just see, okay, Super Bowl. But so do you think that it's passé now to do advertising on television? I mean, because now people have DVRs and now they skip. Like, that's what I do. I'll skip through something if I don't want to watch the commercials.
My husband always skips, and I'm always like, this is the part I want to see. I want to see the messaging. I don't know that it's passé, because I think people are still going to pay high dollar for it, because they, if you have 50 million televisions tuned in, there's still some ROI you can pretend to create around that, because that's the other thing. So if I'm watching a commercial and 50 million Americans are see this commercial also, right? How can you track if those 50 million Americans went out and took an action as a result of that commercial? How can you track it? You rarely see a call to action. So, I mean, that you just don't.
For sure. So then how do they keep it going, though? How are people still buying?
I don't think, if you think about most of the ads that you see on television are bigger brands. And so it's more brand awareness, and that they continue to do it. It's more to just keep Uber or keep Amazon or keep AWS.
In the person's psyche.
In your psyche.
Yeah. Gotcha.
It's less to tie directly to an ROI. Now, the difference in the podcast, so you're a small business, you're not necessarily at the point where you can just focus only on brand awareness. You need to see some return on your investment. So what can you do? Well, you say, okay, I'm on this podcast and I can create a offer. So if someone listens to this podcast and they reach out and we end up doing business and they mention that they heard me here, I'm going to give them 10% off of their service, right? Okay, that's really tangible. So if 3 weeks from now, I get an inquiry from our website and someone says, I heard you on the podcast and you mentioned 10% off your service. Okay, now I have a ROI, even if it's just one person, where I just don't know that there are many other mediums for advertising that you can see a direct ROI in that way. I mean, QR codes are coming back.
Yes.
So you see people doing that.
A lot of that.
The QR codes in print. So I think that in some ways it's going to be interesting to see over the next few years if print starts to come up a little bit higher, or digital where people can do QR codes versus TV or radio. We'll see. But I really do think podcasts still are a great opportunity and provide a lot of value.
And do you find that it's still at the beginning stages, or
I think so.
Yeah, you think so?
I think so, because think about it. I mean, you listen to a lot of podcasts too. And so do a little audit. The next time you're listening to your podcast, you're looking through your list, think about how many of them have advertisers at all and have more than maybe 1 or 2. Not many.
That's true, for sure.
And you know who has a lot? Oprah. So if you ever listen to Oprah's Super Soul podcast,
Yeah.
they have maybe 3 or 4 because Oprah's a media mogul, so she gets it. So you think all of those, I think maybe 3 or 4 per, and sometimes they're just 20 minutes and they have 3 or 4 advertisers. And what's interesting is you can't speed through them because, you know, on a podcast, you can double time or you can't do it because it's Oprah and she's a mogul. So she's figured that out.
Right?
Yeah. Because
you're like forced to listen to
right.
them.
That's just like on YouTube, but with the videos, like you can only skip after the first 4 seconds.
Right.
So I think that that's where podcasting will go with advertisement, where first, we're at the very beginning stages. So I think this is white space, blue ocean opportunity. Then I think it'll get to a point where people are like, okay, you have this many listeners. If I'm going to pay to advertise on your podcast, how do I know people aren't just speeding through it?
Yeah.
And then that's when, like I said, the feature on Oprah's podcast where you can't is a thing. And so now you say, well, nope, they can't speed through that. They have to listen to the ad.
They have to listen to
people
the
are like,
ad.
okay. So yeah, I think there's a ton of opportunity for podcasters. So those of us who actually have podcasts and are interested in pursuing advertisement, as well as for small businesses to build their little tribe, right?
Right.
You only need 100 people.
Exactly. I was just going to say, so you mentioned the book by Tim Ferriss, The Tools of Titans, and I read it over the last 2 weekends, and it did mention that, it mentioned that you only need 100 super fans, but then he added this as well, and I wanted to ask you about this idea. He also talks a little bit about, you develop your fan base, but he said that we should give away 99% of our content for free and then leave 1% of high value content that we charge for a premium. Okay, so what is the idea behind that?
So do you obviously know who Gary Vee is?
Yeah.
Same thing with VaynerMedia, right? So the idea is that if you want to position yourself or your business or your service as a thought leader in the space, whatever the space is, then first you are going to attract people by having something of value. And they don't know yet.
Oh, it's like the hook
because you're still kind of dating
thing that he talks about.
Yeah, exactly. So you're still kind of dating. So they're like, is this person legit? Because you can also curate.
It's going back to dating. Yeah,
that's so I told you, dating rules apply. Because first you're like, okay, is this person legit? I know they're saying this, but is this really true? So you get a little bit more. Okay, are they consistent? Okay, they're consistent. Yeah. Okay, so then you go a little deeper,
a little further,
and so now you're to the point where you're like, gosh, I'm referencing this person all the time. I'm going to go buy their book. I'm going to go buy their fill in the blank.
Yes.
And so or I'm going to sign up for one of their classes. So maybe you do little vignettes or little segments that are, bite-sized, snackable content that you give away for free. Yeah. And then at some point, as you're pulling people through your funnel, you say, okay, now for this one, for the 10-minute or for the 50-minute or for the workshop, now you have to pay. Well, if I've bought into you and I believe you have value, then I will pay, because another thing you're building when you give things away is a bit of a credit bank. So think about it. If someone is buying you lunch every day, someone buys you lunch, just on their, they're just like, no, I got it. You, without them having to say anything, will start to feel obligated to reciprocate that. That's just human nature.
It's just human nature. You're right.
So if I'm getting your free content, or service or whatever it is, at some point inside of me, I'm going to be like, oh, I'm going to, because now I support you.
Now I can support,
I support you because I find value here. I support you. And so I'm going to buy it. I'm going to tell other people to buy it. That's just how it goes.
So it could be like a class. It could be a workshop. It could be an online webinar class that you pay for. So those are the things. That's longer. Yeah. So you kind of create, like, I know that I read that Gary Vee book that said something like there's like 4 punches and there's a hook.
The hook,
Jab, hook. Yeah. And so it's like, you give them. And so that's something that Tim Ferriss also talked about in that book, in the 100 super fans. And I think it does go back to that idea of creating that tribe. And so business owners and women or entrepreneurs that create those little tribes, create their little groups, can start, I guess, monetizing little by little as those people create more and they share it with someone else and they say, hey, I love what she's talking about. You should listen in.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And then that's the other thing. So if the 100 people quickly become 500, 1,000, 10,000, because think about it, referrals. If you pick up a paper and you read an ad, new sandwich shop, delicious sandwiches, great service, you're like, maybe I'll try it. If I come in and say, oh my gosh, I just had this sandwich from this sandwich shop, it was so good, the service, you will probably go today. You will make a point to go today. So that referral, person to person, carries far more weight, far more clout than anything else. So 100 people who are super fans, they're talking about your brand. They're talking about your business. then they're telling people, then once some of those people become, so now the circle's 250.
It grows.
Now it's 500. Now it's 1,000. So 100 quickly multiplies. But I think
So
the problem is people focus on the 10,000 versus the 100. So then you're not giving good, deep value to anyone.
Vibes by Alicia Season 5 is sponsored by SNR Creative. Are you putting your money towards visibility but not seeing any change or business growth? Well, that is the problem. SNR Creative is a boutique marketing and business development firm in Houston that specializes in turning your ideas into reality in the most creative way possible. From social media management to website development, graphic design to event management, this full-service creative team does it all. The world can't go on without your services, so let's make sure everybody knows your name. You're either fascinating or forgotten. What will you choose? Get ahead and above the competition by contacting SNR Creative with the link in my bio. Mention Vibes by Alicia and receive a free business consultation. Vibes by Alicia Season 5 is sponsored by SheSpace. Hey you! Yes you! Badass hardworking boss. If you're tired of cliche spaces, of the regular and unimpressive, you want to add a little bit of spice to the shared co-working experience, I have just the place. SheSpace is the hub for bold women. It's the queen's throne away from home. I firmly believe in the proximity principle, which refers to the intention of surrounding yourself with the people who embody your ambitions to achieve them. Find that proximity and experience the dream job life here at SheSpace. With membership, you'll have access to a multitude of amenities, a robust calendar of events, and overall a group of like-minded women. So what are you waiting for? Come and see us at SheSpace. Vibes by Alicia Season 5 is sponsored by Finest Blood. Finest Blood provides patients and partners in clinics with service at its finest. Avoid mixed diagnosis in unprecedented times and commit to laboratory services in the finest way. Whether you are participating in mobile or in-lab services, we will provide you with the finest care and make sure your satisfaction is met. No more waiting long hours in clinics. No more waiting long hours for results. No more leaving the comfort of your own home, if that's what you choose. At Finest Blood, our system is designed to alleviate the challenges of accessibility and timeliness of lab work while providing exceptional customer care. We provide you with the best care in anything that we do. Come and see us or follow us at finestbloodllc.com. So let's lead that conversation towards influencer marketing, because it also goes back to the idea that brands are looking for, let's say, the 10,000, the 20,000, 30,000 followers. However, they're now looking at, what's engagement for them. So going back to the conversation you did mention last time at the live recording, that you've kind of sensed that influencer marketing and influencers have become caricatures of marketing. So tell me a little bit why you feel that way, and then why you want podcasting to stay pure, because you did mention that you hope that podcasting stays pure.
So I think that influencer, I remember the first article that I read, this was years ago, about the first, and it was they actually are in Texas. It's a man and a woman, they're married, and they were really the first, I guess, big influencers, where they were making, 6 figures plus high 6 figures off of influencer marketing. And a couple things were unique. It was fashion specific, lifestyle specific, right? So you think, okay, that makes sense. So that means all of the people who are following them, that is what they're interested in. And they were going to them. They were seen as trendsetters and thought leaders in that space. So if they wore the sweater, then 10% of their followers wanted to go buy the sweater, right? So it was a real clear ROI. Again, you could really clearly link. I bought the sweater from this link, which was posted on this person's profile, right? Easy ROI. Exactly. So then what started to happen is other brands were like, oh, wait a minute, we need to do that. And then all of a sudden you got all these people who were influencers that went out and sold, oh, well, I'll market your water, I'll market your clothing store, I'll market your chairs that you make. And then you start to see people who were influencers, but you couldn't really tell, like, well, what's your thing? What do you believe in actually? Because Is it baby food and formula?
So they lost authenticity. They lost the real reason why they were doing it. It was
literally whoever will pay me, I will do it.
Whoever will pay me. Mm-hmm.
I will do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so then what happens? Engagement drops off because I started following this person because they were into interior design and decor, and I was, let's say. And now they're talking to me about a skinny stomach tea. Well, what does it have to do with interior design? Nothing.
Yeah,
so I'm not going to like that or click that or be engaged with that.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden you start to have this trend, which is then why the businesses are like, well, what's engagement? What's the ROI? Because it starts to drop. So as influencer marketing rose as a thing that people were doing, engagement dropped because then it was people just, not everybody, but a lot of people would take whoever would pay them to do it. And so when I said that I hope podcasting stays pure, I hope that podcasting never gets to the space where you're a podcast that's about lifestyle and business, but then all of a sudden you're talking about a car dealership. Well, wait a minute. Unless that's tied directly to the lifestyle, or you know what I mean? Or you're talking about baby form. It's just, lifestyle is a broad category, but I still think you've defined a lane within the category. And
absolutely.
if you go way outside of your lane, and it's like, okay, well, wait a minute, what's happening now?
Right. And speaking on things that I know about.
Correct.
To be honest with you, and not just taking it just because somebody decides that that's what they want to talk about.
Exactly. So that's what I mean by pure. We're podcasters, those of us who are producing shows, stay true to, like you said, is this person who's going to be a guest or a sponsor, are we vision aligned? Are we really vision aligned? Do I really believe that their audience would find value in what I have to say or not? And if not, then that's not the right fit, and that's okay.
Yeah.
There are others. Dating rules apply.
Yes.
And that's what I meant
true.
by the purity of it.
Okay.
That it doesn't just turn into this cash grab, and the podcast is 7 minutes, and 4.5 of those minutes are ads.
Yeah. And I mean, looking at the big podcasters, they do have like an hour and a half, and they do a lot. Like Joe Rogan, he has a ton of ads as well. Like he does them at the beginning and then he does them at the middle.
I don't listen to him, so I'm not familiar.
But he's one of the examples that I was researching as one of those people that really does a lot of ads, and that's how he's making a lot of money. But back to the conversation of purity, he's losing a lot of followers because of that.
You have a Joe Rogan, and then you have a Tim Ferriss. Have you ever listened to Tim
I do.
Ferriss?
I listen to Tim Ferriss too.
How many ads do you hear on Tim Ferriss?
I don't hear very many, but I hear some. Not a lot.
And he reads them. And it's in the beginning, and it's about a product that he uses. Back to your point. Like, I actually use this Sweet Greens or this whatever it is, Amazing Greens. Whatever the product is, something he actually uses.
Yes.
He ties it back to, as y'all know, I'm interested in martial arts. And so this thing, ... So as an audience member, okay, yep, this is authentic, right?
Yes.
Versus all kinds of products and services, maybe like this other podcast you're talking about, when you're like, okay, what's happening now? And you just don't want to listen.
And listeners are becoming a lot more discerning in that sense as well. Yeah, because I will disconnect from somebody that just goes into something that I just feel like, oh, yeah, you weren't like that before, and all of a sudden you are. Yeah, and in my research, I went back and looked at, the men versus the women.
Oh,
and so the women are starting to jump in on that same bandwagon, because I think they're seeing that if the guys are able to secure these huge endorsements, they want to be able to secure those huge endorsements as well. And so the numbers are starting to come up. So again, let me ask you this question. Are we, as women, as maybe women of color, are we at a disadvantage because we don't want to seem inauthentic? Or are we not jumping into the bandwagon like these guys, that are doing it and they're making the money, but yet we're not? What do you think about that?
I have a lot of things to say about that, and I will share some of them. I heard somebody say once, they were talking about a record deal, that they call it a deal because you have to deal with them.
Okay.
And what they meant by that is, it's sort of like all money isn't good money, and it depends on what you want, right? So if you want autonomy, I want autonomy. You can ask my husband. He's like, I know you don't want to be told what to do. That's right. That's never going to work for me to just take money because it's just not going to work for me, because I know that there's a trade-off. I know it's he or she who pays has the say.
Yeah.
That's not going to work for me. That may work for someone else. They may have a very specific goal that they're trying to attain. That's financially, they need to do these certain things to get there, and they may see that as a path, and that may work for them. So when you say, I never think you're at a disadvantage for being authentic. Okay. I think that it can seem that way depending on what scoreboard you're checking.
Okay.
For, right. So if you're checking the scoreboard of dollars only, then it's going to, and
it's
right
gonna
now,
look that way.
it's going to look like it's a disadvantage. If you're checking the scoreboard of how do I feel inside and what my images and the message I'm putting out, and am I lining up, is my say and my do gap narrow or non-existent? And if that's what's most important to you, then I think you're not at a disadvantage. So again, it just depends on what someone's goals are. And like I said, in long-term, short-term goals, maybe help people make that decision.
Do you find, though, that because we do want to stay close to who we are and we want to stay close to our core, our vision, our mission, that we are not necessarily jumping in on some of the big deals, or maybe not approaching those things?
So now we're talking about a different thing.
Yeah.
So now we're talking about being afraid to go for what you want.
Right.
Because you can do both. You can be true
Tell me
to
how you
who
do
you
both.
are, and not afraid to go for the big deal.
Okay.
I think that's the thing. So it's sometimes we see people, like you said, in this example of like going for these big sponsors. Okay, they just go for the big sponsors, and
right.
But they may be doing that at the cost and expense of their authenticity. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe they're both. Maybe that is what they want. Maybe they're like, nope, this is what I want. I want to make the most amount of money I can in this amount of time, and this is a path, and this is what I'm doing, and I know that, and I feel good about that. Whereas someone else may say, I don't feel good about this, but I'm going to do it because I feel like I should, because I don't want to leave money on the table.
Yeah.
So I think that what you've just mentioned is you can do both. You can be authentic and you can go for what you want. I think that's where women have the trouble, is going for what we want, because that's really a value. That's a self-value issue, not an opportunity issue. There are many opportunities, but do you value yourself enough to go after the most expensive one?
Right. Like we self-sabotage because we don't feel like we're worthy, or there's like a imposter syndrome going on, that kind of thing. It's more intrinsic and more emotional and psychological than we're giving it credit for.
Exactly. So there are no lack of opportunities.
Yeah, you're
and
right.
there are books and books and books on, a lot of times women aren't getting some opportunities because we're not asking for them. We're not pursuing them. We're not making a path for ourselves. Like I had a friend tell me once, sometimes you chip away at the iceberg and then you realize, you know what, I'm just going to go around it. And just go around it. I mean, there are other ways. There are many ways
to get to the other side.
Yeah, and I think sometimes what happens is we try this way, it doesn't work, and then we never try again. And then we say, oh, I'm leaving a lot of stuff on the table. Well, yeah, but it's not because you're not just going after anybody who's throwing you dollars. It's because you've given up on trying because you don't believe that you can achieve it. You don't believe you're worthy. You don't believe fill in the blank. But opportunities are vast. It's, do we believe that we can get them? Do we believe that we can actually go for it and get it?
Shavonnah, give me one tip on what you tell our lady business owners to get through that challenge or that hump of us like pursuing the next thing, the next level.
Journal. Write down, formally, informally, write down. The reason I say journal, because that's probably, for a lot of people, a lot of women, the only place that you'll be really, really honest. What are you actually afraid of? What is it actually? Is it, I'm afraid that if I become too successful, I'm going to alienate my friends and my family. And if I alienate my friends and my family, I'm going to be lonely. And if I'm lonely, then I'm not going to be happy. And I would have done all this work and then I'm not happy. Okay. And then you can reverse engineer.
And we create scenarios in our head that don't even exist, and we don't even know they're going to happen.
Correct.
But
we don't know what's going to happen. Even 2 minutes from now, we don't know. But the point is, I think until you actually have it written down on paper, what is it that I'm actually afraid of? And then say it out loud. Now it becomes real. Now you can deal with it. You can dismantle it. You can dismantle those limiting beliefs. So I think that's what I would say. Because I think what happens is, and I've experienced this often, where I'm talking to someone and I'm listening, and then I'll say, well, what are you afraid of? And they'll first say, like, I'm not afraid of anything. And then a couple more questions, and then it comes out. Right. Or what do you really want?
Right.
You're telling me some things, but these are, I don't feel like that's what
you
really want.
have to dig in a little bit more, dig in.
So I say that would be the thing. Dig into yourself. What is it I'm afraid of? Did somebody 20 years ago make that comment about you when you did something awesome? That happened to me, where someone like a long time ago when I was an intern made a comment that I thought, oh, she thinks she's all that because I participated in this exercise where they had us do this thing, and I was the last person standing. And that was like the peak, but that's just as it were. And so I carried that voice in my head to not shine too bright, not do too much, not because thinking that there was going to be that person saying, oh, well, she thinks blah, 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 blah.
She thinks she's all that.
And I had to realize, oh, that's a limiting belief that is not true. Because like, do you actually think that? No, I don't think that. Okay, so what is that about? Oh, that's because that one time you shine bright, not even that you were trying to, it just happened. Yeah. Someone batted you down and you never dealt with it. And then you let that guide me.
Yeah, the next things that you do.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, well, that's silly. But I had to like say it. I had to call it out for myself.
You're right. Yeah.
That's the thing. So first thing is doing that. And then making sure that you have people around you that are going to build you up. And I'm not saying bullshit you. I don't know. You may have to edit that out.
No, I don't know. No, we keep all that.
It's not bullshit you. Build you up.
Yeah.
So building you up means telling you when you're doing your say is not lining up. You say you want to do this, but then you're doing this. So what helps? Like I tell the ladies I work out with all the time, friend, what are we doing? What are we doing, friend? Because you told me this, and now you're doing this, and those two things don't match. So having those people around you that will build you up, including making sure they hold you accountable for what you say you want to do.
For what you say you're going to do.
And they help you. If you, like I told one of my other friends, what do you need me to help you do? And she said, well, maybe this. And I said, okay, well, we went through some things. She's like, oh, I have one of those. I'm like, okay, perfect.
Yes.
And we were able to, just in a phone call, quick phone call.
Totally correct.
That's the thing. So you journal, you call out the thing that you're afraid of. You share that with someone, so then you have some accountability, or maybe with yourself only if you don't feel comfortable, and that's fine. And then you get folks around you that are going to build you up, not bullshit you. That means holding you accountable and supporting you in accomplishing your goals.
You're right.
That's how you get over the hump.
You're right. And I think that's a lot of women are they want to start like a podcast, or they want to start a business, but they're thinking about that moment somebody said that was a stupid idea.
Yep.
And that keeps them from pushing and pushing forward, you know?
Yes.
Or moments when you have like some great opportunity coming to you and you just say, oh, I don't think I can do it. I don't think I'm worthy enough for it. Having somebody you can call right away and say, listen, this just happened to me. Talk me through it, because I can do this, but I'm just feeling like I'm not worthy of it yet. Yeah,
and everything sounds
you're right
crazy
about that
until somebody does it. You know, everything sounds, oh, that's so I can't believe it, until you do
it. I love that.
Just do it.
Really
try it.
Good advice.
My mom always says, nothing beats a failure but a try. Try. If it doesn't work, okay, but you tried, and you know you tried. Versus not trying and always having that thing, oh, I wonder if. When I die, there's going to be no I wonder if.
Yeah, you will always fail at the things you don't try.
I'm going to do all of the things, and some of them are going to work, and some of them are going to be shit, but I'm going to do all of them.
And being okay with that, right? And being okay with the failure, and being okay with moving forward and doing that, and like having like a conversation with somebody and say, yeah, you know what, that's not a failure. It was a learning experience, and you're growing from it, and you're moving forward. And I still support you, and I still believe in what you do. And I think that is like so key and so important, because that is a true empowerment of women.
Yeah,
you know,
and language matters. Language matters. Yeah. So, you know, it's things don't work. So what? So what? Everything's not going to work. I'm like a little scientist over here. Like I like to solve problems. Well, that means you have a hypothesis. I want to do this thing.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to try this way. Okay, that didn't work. Scrap. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to try this way. That didn't work. Scrap. You might have to do it 17 times before you get to the thing.
Yeah.
But that's part of the journey. That's part of the learning. And so then what you do is now you're able to tell these other women who are just starting out, when they say, okay, I'm thinking about doing it this way. You say, okay, but I want to tell you, I did it that way, and this is what I experienced, so keep that in mind. And they say, ooh, okay, good insight. Let me take that in and incorporate that into my plan, so I don't have to make the exact same mistake. So then you help them get to where they're going faster, because now all those failures are experiences,
right,
that you get to talk about. Much of the things that I know is because I try all kinds of stuff, and some stuff doesn't work, and I'm like, okay, well, now I know that.
Do you think that that's why mentors could be a very important component in a girl's growth and a woman's growth, is having a mentor that guides you through those processes, because we all face them?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Mentorship. I have many mentees, and I have over the years, and I'll continue to do that. And then also on the inverse, I have people, even some of my mentees, I learn from everybody, whether it's I'm the mentor, they're the mentee, or whatever. The point is, my eyes are open. I'm learning. I'm listening. I'm incorporating information. I'm updating my processes and my systems and my protocols, and I get better. I spiral up, right? Yes. You can spiral down, or you can spiral up. I spiral up.
Yeah, for sure. I love this. This is such a good conversation. I'm
Thank you so
grateful
much.
to have you today. But before we go, and before we finish up, I want you to tell me 2 podcasts that you're listening to now and that you think my audience would appreciate.
So two that I think your audience would
Yes.
appreciate. So I got to pull out my little phone and
Yes.
look. So Optimize Me, which
Okay.
is, I love Optimize, the whole Optimize family. Brian
I
Johnson.
haven't heard about that one yet.
It's fantastic. So I
Okay.
recommend that. And then the other podcast that I think, so I'm a vegetarian. So I'm thinking you said lifestyle. So there's this one that is called the Plant Proof Podcast with Simon Hill, and Simon's from Australia. I like that. A lot of the podcasts I listen to, Super Age, that's another good one. So it's all about like
Super Age.
Yeah, about aging and like being better. So it's older, better, wiser, healthier.
I love that name, by the way.
Yeah.
Super Age.
I listen to that. Those would be the ones, I think. So if I'm looking at my little podcast history and all of them, I'm Tim Ferriss.
You don't have any true crime in there?
No, I don't.
That's like the biggest thing right now. It's true crime.
Well, you know what? I'll say this. The Daily Stoic, that's another good one. You know
that's
what?
a good one.
I'll
yes.
say this. That's another thing, Alicia, that I think, I would impart on people.
Mm-hmm.
Hope is not a strategy. I have this on the wall in the office. You must plan and do the work. A lot of people want a lot of things, but when I look at how they spend their 24 hours, we all get the same 24 hours. You, me, Tim Ferriss, Oprah, name the person, they get 24 hours. We waste a lot of our time with things that don't feed our mind, that don't build us up.
Distractions,
that
right?
Distraction.
I read that in the book.
Distraction,
in the Tim Ferriss book,
right?
It's one of the worst things it's distractions.
So one of the things you're going to do when you journal, folks who are going to do the exercise, is turn off the distractions. I don't have any notifications on my phone. My husband has to say, did you see my Facebook post? And I'm like, no, just tell me. Because it's a distraction.
I love that.
It's a distraction. And so that's the other thing. I think, again, it's that say-do gap. If you say you want to accomplish fill in the blank goal, what are you doing every day to get you there? And I guarantee, unless you want to be a true crime fiction writer, listening to a true crime podcast ain't it.
Getting
I guarantee it.
What if it helps to relax at night?
Well, so does yoga. So does a walk. So and then that's double time. That's productive in another way.
You're
but you know
right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's not to say leisure is like you don't do it, of course. But it's okay, after you've done all of the things that you're supposed to do on that list of things that are getting you to your goals. Then okay, sure. But what I find is it's the opposite. It's all the time is, well, like someone said, instead of making time for your work, make time for the distraction. Do your work, your passion, your goal, whatever do that. Let that take up most of your time. And then take a break to be distracted. We do it the other way around.
Yeah, and you know what? A lot of people say they want to be successful, they want to make a lot of money, but what are you doing to get to those things?
What are you even
doing? Or they're
doing
looking at other people's
time?
Lives. Exactly. Like, what is your life? What does the day look like? Where are you spending your energy on?
That's right.
Are you allowing things outside of your control to affect everything that you do and not let you continue in your path? Everybody wants to do things, but do they have the discipline? And it goes back to that book that you mentioned and then I read. You allow those things, and there's little habits that these people have that they create for themselves every single day and leads them to their goal.
Every Titan in that book has a morning routine that they do. And all of them get up early, and all of them, everyone, they feed their mind, their body, their spirit first, and then they do the things. That's
and
how
then they do the things,
But that's the thing. I recommend that book highly because it's so
Tools
good.
of Titans by Tim Ferriss. It's a great book.
And it just helps
thank you for recommending.
honest.
I had read another one by him, the 4-day week work week, and that was really good. But this one was really instrumental in just really giving me that idea that you really have to focus and really become disciplined. And if you're trying to reach that next goal, that next level.
That's right.
I love it. Thank you so much. And before I go, I just want people to know how they can find you and maybe locate your services. Where can they go and see you?
So www.snr-creative.com. That's our website. And so you can find all of our socials and things like that. And our social media team, our digital marketing team does a great job. So all the stuff there is them, not me. So if you think it's beautiful, kudos, shout out to the DMT.
They're beautiful.
Because they do a great
graphics,
job. And then I'm on LinkedIn. And I would say if I'm active on anything, weekly. It's LinkedIn. I probably spend maybe 40 minutes a
Okay.
week. You know, I'll read stuff, repost. So I'm on LinkedIn, Shavonnah Roberts Schreiber, and like I said, our website. So thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thank you for being here.
Of course.
Appreciate you
It was
so
my
much.
pleasure.
And guys, we're going to be linking everything on the podcast description, and then we're also going to be sharing on social media. And if you want to hear anything else, please let me know, DM me, give me some feedback, and set a review. Please share this with your friends. We can't wait for the next one. Thank you, Shavonnah.
Thank you.